one of the organizers of this meetup group, and I have the honor to host tonight. It's a very special presentation, dear and near to the heart of me and my company. You will hear about it. But back to the group first. We're MoDAP DC. We're a group that is founded by Pete Erickson about, in December 2008, more than 2 years ago. And he always says he founded this group because he was looking for a group to join for mobile developers, and he couldn't find it, so he founded it. And a couple months later, I joined, and now I help run this group. And so is Yamo here, also help running the group. And we are trying to focus on developer success. We try to group together developers and serve developers' needs. So now we're meeting 2 times a month, and this is third Wednesday of the month. We're trying to have a business-focused meeting, and then first Wednesday of the month will be focused on technology. There's a Facebook, LinkedIn, and a hashtag. If you are tweeting, use the hashtag, please. So sponsor, we have Wambo Kalau, great attorney. So Rick will be speaking tonight, so you got to meet them. And Dinder, great lawyers. Onward support, Onward Search, and Shutter Groups. They provide technical support for developers, so good sponsors. And Tech Corner, always our group is successful. I think mainly because we have a good place. So Tech Corner provide the space for us. Thank you, Tech Corner. And brand new Socialize, brand new sponsor for us. So Socialize, check out their website. It's about helping apps get socialized without you doing any work. So that's not their tagline though, but that's what I get. Okay, so that is their business model. Is give you the API so your app, when you develop a new mobile app, you can be socialized without doing anything. It's brand new sponsor, so we thank you, Socialize. Now tonight. We don't have a sponsor presentation. I just got notified that they're not around, but nonetheless, I believe they're paying for pizza and drinks tonight, and I had a couple already. So thank you, and VCM Security. So I think we'll hear from them a little bit later. So that's great. So we will launch right into our program. The program is about, the title that Pete put together. Everybody is getting sued, now what? So I will launch into the program right now. Give me a second there. So our good friend John Gallagher put this illustration together, which clearly says what we're trying to say. We're getting robbed at gunpoint. So what do we do? Now, I want to emphasize that tonight's program is not about this is wrong, okay? Well, these are not, the way I'm going to put it is they have figured out a way to make money. It's a business model. So the business, what I would like to focus on is, we're in this situation now together. So what do we do? Now, it's one thing to change the system, okay? That may or may not be tonight's I would say that would not be tonight's focus. If someone wants to lead the effort to change the system, I'm all for it. But I want to focus tonight on the practical, on we're in this situation, it's likely not going to get better. What do we do? So we have a lot of things packed together, and I want to make sure we get through all the slides as quickly as possible, and then we launch into a panel discussion / Q&A. I want to leave enough time so that everybody can ask the questions, and then we have Rick, a good patent lawyer from Wambo Kalau here representing, and David from Article 1, who's doing amazing things of finding prior art tonight with us. So they represent the solution side, and then we have myself and then at least one other CEO who will be joining us, Jonathan from Widget Press, who will represent the victim side of the equation here. So now the first section of tonight, I have the honor to interview Florian Müller, who is a respected blogger, and he blogs his blog Foes Patents, and basically whenever he blogs, the tech world listens, and he's being quoted on a lot of tech journals. He's not the only one, but he speaks a lot on the situation. So I interviewed him a while back, and it was an hour-and-a-half conversation. I cut it down to 8 minutes, okay? Yeah, right. So that is the first presentation. So let me know if you have trouble hearing it, all right? So here comes Florian.
Unfortunately, by now the situation has gotten a lot worse for developers on a broad and widespread basis, just because of two reasons, basically. One is there are now so many bad patents out there, and patents that can be interpreted in bad ways. In other words, people can make assertions claiming that those patents read a lot more than they actually do based on some thorough legal analysis. The second factor contributing to this is that the whole business of commercializing, monetizing intellectual property rights, and especially software patents, has turned out to be a pretty lucrative one. It's really a kind of a shakedown business that works very well. And on my blog, I published some numbers taken from an IPO prospectus, a financial filing by Patent Pool Company and RPX. And that, in that post, I quoted a number of passages from their IPO prospectus that show how well that show business works. It's like a low-risk, high-margin business, and in many cases you will get companies to pay just for what is called nuisance value. They're just going to pay in order to avoid the cost of a lawsuit. And the problem is that once you actually can make better business on average by asserting patents than by writing software, what's going to happen? A lot of business people, most of whom couldn't even write software, but even some people who could if they wanted, are actually going to go where the easy money is. And that means that this whole monetization of software patents has reached a point at which there are so many, and there are actually ever more, and there will be many more in the future, who have realized that that's a better business than software development is in a way. Because of that circumstance, there's a kind of a professionalization and expansion of that enforcement business. So the patent assertion business now has companies that differentiate themselves in that field from others by actually focusing also on smaller targets. And losses, even though I'm sure they would preferably want to be paid by Apple or Google for their respective platforms, apparently that's an organization, a small organization that has set itself up that in ways that enable it to profitably go after little guys. And Macrosolve, interestingly, is also a company that apparently sees value in suing relatively small and some medium-sized companies. So all of those factors combined mean that no app developer can at this point just assume that the likelihood of being hit by a patent troll is like the likelihood of being struck by lightning. We are now at a point at which any app developer can receive such a letter any day, anywhere on Earth, in fact, because some of those patent holders, like Loxis, they don't even limit it to a particular country. They just target anybody who does business in the U.S. via the App Store. And that's why nobody can really feel safe anywhere, anytime, or based on the assumption that you're just not a sufficiently lucrative target to get hit. For a couple of reasons, there's certainly a huge difference between the situation in the U.S. market and the rest of the world. One important element here is that the cost of patent litigation in the far exceeds that of any other economy I'm aware of. So the second issue is you don't have a strict loser pays regime under which a patent holder making an assertion but losing because maybe the patent is found invalid or it's valid but not infringed or for some other reasons the patent holder could still lose. You don't really have the mechanism in place in the U.S. that the patent holder for making a failed assertion is required to pick up your costs as well, not just his own. There is a possibility for recovering those expenses, but really only under very particular circumstances. It's hard to find any examples of where that ever happens. That, those factors, that it's very expensive and you cannot recover it, is worse in favor of patent holders who want to attack you, especially because some say the cost for the troll is about the same as for those defending themselves. That is wrong. It is much cheaper to actually attack, especially if you don't have much at risk other than your litigation costs. You simply put others at a massive risk, and the pressure on those to defend themselves on the defendants is far greater. And that also means they usually need to spend a lot more time and money. And then finally, the U.S. Patent Office certainly has a particularly low quality standard concerning patents. I cannot say that the European Patent Office is perfect. It also puts out large numbers of patents that are no better than the kinds of patents held by Lopez and Microsoft. But relatively speaking, the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office gets the worst rankings among patent offices in the civilized world. So all of this, and then there's another factor, which is that since you have so much high-tech innovation in the U.S., so much startup activity, so much funding, venture capital that's available to startups, all of this, there are also a lot of targets in the U.S. market, and you also have this, what I described before, is this professionalization, commercialization, expansion of kind of a patent assertion industry that's also a very uniquely U.S. market-related problem. So there are various factors that come together, and it doesn't mean that you're absolutely safe outside of the U.S. It doesn't mean that it's necessarily cheap to defend yourself outside the U.S. market, but compared to the rest of the world, the situation you face in the U.S. is far worse, although it is also getting worse now in other places, step by step. I think it's really up to app developers to organize themselves. It's up to app developers to speak to the extent that it's possible with one voice vis-a-vis the platform makers, Apple and Google and others, because there are situations such as with lawsuits where clearly the question of platform maker liability comes up. And right now, I don't really see that there's like an app developer organization that has a broad enough basis out there, meaning a worldwide kind of app developer organization that could approach Apple and say, guys, what you do about lawsuits is better than nothing. Google does nothing, so compared to them, Apple is the one-eyed among the blind, but it's far from what the app developer community needs to be able to actually deal with this threat. So I think that's where they need to organize themselves to really get clear and firm and legally reliable commitments from the platform makers. They also, I think, need to organize to jointly hire lawyers and then divide the cost among them. Well, again, thanks for really inviting me to this call. I wish I lived a lot closer to D.C. I would certainly have gone there personally, but since I'm based in Europe, that's a tough call to make. I believe that we've really talked about the basic issues here. I have, as you said, not delivered a whole lot of good news, and I know that. But I just want to help each and every one who is actually or will potentially be affected by this.